Lockdown, I thought I would provide an audio book. We're going to read 11th Hour Preparedness. This is a book that I have written. This is the second edition was copywritten in 2013. It's still available on Amazon Books, but it's due a third edition. But I tell you what, it is so appropriate today, especially in the world that we're in and under these conditions. The advice that and the plans and the things that are covered before the preface or before the forward is the preface. And I would just like to begin. 11th Hour Preparedness, second edition by Tyler Woods, a no-nonsense review of facts, expectations, and options available to protect your family. This is now a quote from Mike Arnold. He is the originator and founder of Staying Alive Incorporated in San Antonio, Texas. It says, I teach my students that the manner in which they handle the first 10 seconds of a serious social encounter will most likely determine who goes home alive. Tyler Woods has taken my job to the next level. While my instruction concentrates on the first 10 yards of the 100-yard dash, 11th Hour Preparedness is the instruction manual for winning a marathon. It's for the folks who have come home and found that home is not as they left it. Mike Arnold, Staying Alive Incorporated. Here's another quote from Mike Arnold. I teach people who find themselves in very bad situations how to win and then go home alive. The foreword. In the face of adversity, human nature bids we continue life as expected and wait for normalcy to return. In the face of what is expected in our near future, that could prove a very bad decision. We have grown dependent to a network of services and are ignorant of how to live without them. Heat and air conditioning come from vents, clean water from faucets, food from grocery stores, and communication via television and the internet. What if an event or series of events caused a total collapse of our services? Do we have what it takes to live without grocery stores, the internet, running water, and electricity? The pages that follow will help you assess your environment against liabilities. Develop a plan to improve your situation and equip yourself with skills and supplies to better your chances in desperate times. Today, food and supply is affordable. Resources are available and options are abundant. This may not remain true in the future, but for those who prepare themselves and their families to live less dependent on systems and services, they will become the new pioneers. Here's another quote. The fabric of services that we depend on every day is unraveling, and we don't have the resources to make repairs. What will you do when it finally tears? The need for preparedness, this is about the second edition, the need for preparedness remains unchanged, except that our time is shorter and anticipated conditions are now in full operation. Food prices are climbing, and news of global instability is more frequent. Decisions of states seem to be driven by the economy or lack of it, and precious metals are heading continually upward. To keep the economy flowing, currency is being printed with nothing to back it up. What results is weakening of the dollar, of the dollars we currently hold. Our nation has undergone a significant shift in values and direction. Responsibility is no longer demonstrated in either federal leadership or the masses, and behavior that would have shocked us a decade ago is paid no attention at all. America has changed. Masses no longer care about honor or national heritage or national image as long as federal programs keep the checks coming. Spain and Greece have had to cut back their government support of chronic unemployed. and they are experiencing escalating riots. When America has to face cutbacks, the mayhem of New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina will seem small. Once again, as New York recovers from the effects of Hurricane Sandy, FEMA has shown itself to be impotent to provide any significant relief. New York citizenry was warned of coming trouble and either ignored warnings or somehow believed the government would be there to help and to provide for their needs. They were wrong. Greater trouble looms in America's future. My advice is to prepare now, prepare in earnest, and prepare discreetly. A bonus to the second edition is a section at the end of the book that details several very helpful projects, plans for making plans for making a slow sand water filter, and details for making a torpedo bucket are accompanied by recipes for making your own laundry detergent and yogurt. Please don't get these two mixed up. Many of these projects are very helpful right now and assist in saving the budget for other preparedness items. Preparedness is not a set of tasks. Preparedness is a lifestyle, and this book is a roadmap to culture change for those who see trouble coming and plan to be out of its way. About the author. Preparedness has been an interest and lifestyle with Tyler for over 35 years, both civilian and military. He has observed that adversity shows up everywhere, and in its wake are only two kinds of people, those who are able to help and those who need help. He has always been on the side of helping. Another description is that society can be sheep, are the vulnerable that need protection, and sheepdogs are those who protect the sheep and pose a threat to wolves. Preppers are sheepdogs. Refusing to become a victim, he's breezed through storms, hurricanes, and a superclass typhoon. He's wobbled through earthquakes, waded through floods, and shoveled through blizzards. In each declared disaster, he was there to rescue the stranded and provide warmth and comfort to victims because he already had the necessary resources. His children recall those times as camping in our living room. Tyler comes from a long line of self-sufficient ancestors who would not allow themselves to become too dependent on the comforts of easy living. He doesn't mind being called cheap. He's cut and split firewood to reduce energy costs to his budget, designed his home to use multiple energy sources, planted gardens, ground flour, baked bread, and raised chickens. Now he watches his children do the same for their families. Some less than perfect decisions seem good at first. There are many apparent good ideas that can waste time and money. When time or money is limited, wasting either can cost more than is immediately apparent. Tyler says, "My sister has a plaque that reads, 'Learn from the mistakes of others. You don't have time to make all those mistakes yourself.'" He will expose some popular thinking that turns many astray and wastes resources. During more than 17 years with a major corporation in the Pacific Northwest, Tyler served as an area safety focal. He was responsible for organizing evacuation plans for large buildings and won. He was speaking at a public library in North Bend, Washington. A day before his presentation, an earth tremor of about 3-point-something shook the region. There weren't enough chairs for the crowd that evening. Regrettably, the people who packed in to hear his presentation that night probably went home and did nothing about it. A problem with preparedness is that it has to be done while things are calm and times are good. I'd guess even Joseph of Egypt had a difficult time collecting 1/5 of the harvest to put in store for the famine that had not yet come. The biblical story of Joseph and the famine is appropriate here. If we do nothing until trouble starts, it will be too late to prepare. It does no good to agree with the need to prepare if you do nothing to make preparation. This is one reason for charging a fee to attend his seminars. Most people will not follow through with things they get for free. The most important reason for charging a fee at conferences is to improve the audience. There is a subset of every population best described as self-proclaimed experts on everything. They often claim their preparedness consists of an assault rifle with thousands of rounds of ammunition. These people are spoilers and will come to free events for the purpose of critical discord. At their core, they are lazy and rest on their assumption that they are somehow tough enough to endure, even though they lack the necessary skills to do so. Perhaps they gain some feeling of power if they can discredit someone else, but they become very offended at the notion of paying to hear what they claim to already know. An entrance fee removes these people from the atmosphere of the conferences, and it greatly improves the climate. Be aware that these gun show commandos are around and will seek to fill your head with their views of things. Most of what they believe is a mix of television and bravado, with little to no experience that has been tested over time. One trait recognized among good preppers is that they are always willing to learn something new. Successful gardening does not come from book knowledge. It requires sweat, dirt, and experience. The same is true for hunting, fishing, cooking, bread making, and just about every task we need to learn. Whatever the task, if you think you can, try it. You'll be surprised at how many details need refinement for you to become proficient at a task. Chapter 1. Are we there yet? Preparedness guidelines that have remained unchanged for decades are now obsolete. Those who fail to change with their new paradigm will find their resources grossly inadequate to meet the needs of a drastically altered game plan. The world is a different place than it was 30 years ago. Current scenarios for the loss of your support infrastructure are far more likely, with estimated recovery extending beyond 3 years. Governments that support terror have been discovered practicing drills that target our national electric grid, and their methods have a high probability of success. In a day when the game plan changes rapidly, even veterans of preparedness are finding themselves students again. We all have a lot of work to do. Is America on the brink of disaster? Could we wake up one day to find our world suddenly and dramatically changed? Many knowledgeable authorities are saying yes. In the not so distant past, preparedness held the perception of strange people with fears that bordered paranoia. Today, you can see regular programming on the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, and the National Geographic that document and teach preparedness. Watch domestic and foreign news regarding American business, unemployment, health, government, and threats that might affect the quality of life we have grown to expect in this country. They point to a universal belief that America is not healthy and is headed for serious trouble. We are ripe for social collapse. Many jobs have been lost to those who do not belong in our country and are here illegally. Employers trying to reduce labor costs will pay cash and forego paying tax or enforcing our national boundaries. States have taken it upon themselves to ratchet up their legal right to protect their state boundaries or state borders. This has brought hostility in the form of protests and marches against the rule of law. A poster in a recent march in Georgia read, "Anyone who supports this law does not believe in God." Many chuckle at the statement, but it demonstrates a fragile and dangerous logic of the masses. Any program that goes against the desires of the masses can be turned into a holy war and used to defend unthinkable acts to get what they want. House. Synergy is when the benefit from a group exceeds the sum of its members. When it comes to social thinking, I feel we have discovered a new term, dummergy. Dummergy must then be when decisions seem to violate the intellect of the dumbest person in the group. As America finds no option but to reduce the financial bleeding of social aid, outrage and riot is likely to erupt in every major city. At a time when we need most to pull together, urban centers will pull apart. Below is a chart showing the recent growth in number of unemployed people who have not found work after 6 months of searching. I might add here, this is copyright 2013. That's 7 years ago at this reading. These have exhausted their unemployment resources. News stories during a decrease, citing a decrease in claims for unemployment, will show this data positively, but keep in mind the people represented by this chart are still unemployed, and they have exhausted their eligibility to make further claims for unemployment. The articles and source data supporting these facts make a steady media stream. New supporting articles are in the paper every day. Nearly 5% of our civilian workforce has been unemployed for over 26 weeks. The population of former wage earners who now subsist completely on social aid is growing. Application for food stamps is rising, and at the same time, government tells us that employment is improving. The truth is that employment growth in America is not even keeping up with our birth rate. Were it not for federal extensions on our front page headlines would read like those of the Great Depression. The same articles that hail the end of recession include comments that unemployment and home foreclosures may continue to increase. Who is the media trying to kid? Another editorial input here. Today, we have seen in the last 3.5 years a dramatic improvement in unemployment rates and in the health and economy of our country. But in the last few weeks of this health crisis in the world, we have seen a dramatic loss, which I'm told now may reach 30%, far exceeding the level of unemployment that we're talking about here back in 2013. So how quickly we can go from all things healthy and wonderful to everything falling apart again. Back to the book. Since the first printing of this book, the price of gasoline has increased to double what it was 2.5 years ago. Unemployment figures are manipulated to look better by not counting those who once had viable jobs and are now working for minimum wage with no benefits, and the unemployment rate is still over 9%. If there was ever an opportune time for adversity, America is there. Our economy is on the verge of collapse from the weight of its own debt. Terrorists are actively planning attacks on American soil. We are ripe for a medically resistant epidemic. Acts of nature can shut down regions of our country for long periods of time. And if it's not enough, any one of us could lose our job and face extended unemployment. Topping this off, our American infrastructure of roads, bridges, gas lines, water, and habit. Fox News reported that 79% of Americans believe our country is headed for economic failure, and that our government officials do not have a remedy to avoid it. International experts have been saying this for years, and our international credit rating is falling. We aren't so powerful that failure can't happen to us. It happened to the USSR, and they charted for us what we can expect. Overnight, their money became worthless, and the only thing of value was food and water. It took the emerging 9 Baltic states an average of 6 months to develop a temporary scrip to serve as money. Accepted currency that could be exchanged on an international market took 5 years to become established. The most important aspect of the fall of the USSR was that it happened overnight. Governments don't announce that they are failing. They simply fail. Maps have already been drawn that display an expected division of America into 4 separate independent states. These maps were produced by some of the same international advisory think tanks that accurately projected the division of the former Soviet Union. Acts of domestic terror are increasing, and attempts to create mass carnage have been discovered in advanced planning stages. Many of us wonder when one of these attempts will be successful. And that brings us to the end of chapter 1. Closes with a quote. How little would it take to motivate a government-subsidized population into riot and house-to-house looting? Well, let's hope it doesn't get motivated too soon. Amen. I hope you've enjoyed this. We'll pick up chapter 2 tomorrow. And with my sincere prayers, God bless you all.